Hello again and welcome back to part 2 of things that scared me as a kid. I did get a couple of comments on my first video that asked for a part 2 talking about books and games, so today we are going to go over those. We're going to be starting with books. Of course, these are all picture books, as that's what you have as a kid growing up. So some of the stories did scare me, but it's mostly the imagery. I think 2 of these books are ones that I had on my own bookshelf at home. All of the rest are ones that were at my grandma's house. Which begs the question, Grandma, why are you buying your grandchildren such terrifying books? I am one of the youngest of all my cousins, so a lot of these are from like the 80s, where my older cousins read them, and they were passed down to me and my younger cousins. I did try to find a lot of these books so that I could get footage of them. I went to a few different antique stores and used bookstores in town. I even looked online, but they were either too expensive or not going to get here in time. So I just want to say a huge thank you to these channels. With these, I was able to get much better footage than I probably would have on my own. With that out of the way, let's get started. Miss Nelson is Missing. This book is about kids in room 207 who are misbehaving and just being rowdy and disrupting the class. Their teacher, Miss Nelson, is fed up with it, and one day she disappears. In her place is a substitute teacher, Miss Viola Swamp. This is what scared me. Her long black fingernails, huge chin and nose, she just had a very witchy kind of appearance. Very uncanny and unsettling. In addition to her frightening appearance, she's also very mean. She forces these kids to do constant homework and berates them for misbehaving. The kids go to Miss Nelson's house in hopes they'll find her and be able to convince her to come back to school. But instead of Miss Nelson, they find Miss Viola Swamp there. A while later, the kids are much more well-behaved in school. Miss Nelson still hasn't returned, and they begin to think she'll never come back. But one day, she walks in the door. Her class is ecstatic to have her back, and they never misbehave again. It's revealed at the end that Miss Nelson was Miss Viola Swamp. The next book we're going to talk about is Return to Oz: Escape from the Witch's Castle. Now, I never watched Return to Oz until I was much older, but my Wizard of Oz obsessed grandmother had this book in her playroom. The cover alone scared me. But this book talks about a certain scene in the movie that most people consider to be one of the scariest. Princess Mombi. If you've seen the movie, you're well aware that Princess Mombi collects the heads of beautiful women and switches them out with her own. When she catches Dorothy sneaking into her palace, she thinks that Dorothy will have a beautiful head when she grows up, and decides to keep her trap until her head is grown and ready for Mombi to take it. She throws Dorothy into a dungeon, where she meets Jack Pumpkinhead, who also scared me. Together they devise a plan to escape and steal Princess Mombi's powder of life. In doing so, Dorothy wakes up all of the disembodied heads that are in Princess Mombi's collection, and they start screaming her name as she runs down the hall. Absolute nightmare fuel. Princess Mombi's headless body wakes up and begins chasing after them, but Jack Pumpkinhead has built this contraption that they bring to life and fly away to escape. This thing also freaked me out. There's no way I would get on that. Next, we're going to talk about Rikki Tikki Tavi. This is a story out of The Jungle Book by Rudyard Kipling, and in 1975 it was made into a short that was directed by Chuck Jones of Looney Tunes fame. Now, I never saw the short, but they did also make an illustrated children's book using images from the animation from the short. And I had that book at my grandma's house. In doing research for this episode, I can tell you that if I had seen this animation when I was a kid, it would have been on part 1 of movies and TV shows that scared me. In this story, the Cobras sneak into the family's house with an intent to kill them. They hide in the bathroom and wait for them to come in the morning to take a bath. These illustrations in the book made me scared to go to the bathroom for such a long time because I was worried there would be a cobra hiding.
I shall wait here until he comes.
Luckily, Riki Tiki Tavi the mongoose is able to attack the snake and kill him and save the family. I specifically remember this picture of the cobra getting shot being in the book. And because the back of a cobra's hood looks like eyes, that kind of freaked me out too. These last two books are definitely the ones that scared me the most. If you recognize this cover, I'm sure you know exactly what I'm going to talk about. And may I just point out, this is an I Can Read Level 2 for grades 1 through 3. This isn't like accidentally watching Watership Down thinking, oh, it's cartoon rabbits, it's for kids. But really it's not. This is meant for kids. Come on, guys, what are we doing here? Especially you, Dirk. Can I call you Dirk? What were you thinking with these drawings? I had so many nightmares because of you. But it's all in good fun. I mean, I read the book over and over again, so clearly some part of me enjoyed it. There was the creepy story about the teeth, there was the lady in the graveyard where the corpses wake up and talk to her, and then of course in a dark, dark room there was a ghost. That one was always fun. But you know already, we're going to be talking about
The Green Ribbon. Once there was a girl named Jenny.
I'm sure most of you know the story, but for those of you that don't, Jenny wears a green ribbon around her neck at all times. She meets Alfred and he asks her why she wears that green ribbon. She tells him, I can't tell you. He asks again, and she tells him it's not important. Eventually they get married. On their wedding night, Alfred says, now that we're married, you have to tell me about the ribbon. And Jenny tells him, it's not time yet. I'll tell you when the time is right. Years pass and they grow older. One day Jenny is told that she's dying. She calls Alfred to her side and tells him, I think the time is right for me to tell you about the ribbon. Why don't you pull it, and you'll see why I couldn't tell you about it until now.
And Jenny's head fell off.
Now, of course, even though I knew it was just a story, every time I saw someone wearing a choker necklace, I would have this little thought in the back of my mind that just maybe it was the only thing keeping their head intact. Quick little mini rant. So when most of us get older, you develop a, well, back in my day mentality about certain things. How kids today have it so easy, and we had to do it this way when we were growing up. When I was looking up books for this video, I realized that they did a reissue of In a Dark, Dark Room, and they did re-illustrations that are like very cutesy, kind of Tim Burton-esque, and they're not scary at all. They're adorable compared to what I grew up with in the first issue of this book. But my back in my day pet peeve is I had to be traumatized while learning how to read. And kids today just have these cute little illustrations. It's not fair. But anyway, mini rant over. We're going to talk about the last book. This one did scare me the most, and I know it's cliche. Every time someone does a list like this involving books, this book is on it. But it's for good reason. A lot of us were exposed to it, and the imagery is terrifying. Of all of these books, this is the only one that I actually own. When the movie came out in 2019, they had a reissue of these with new covers. Thankfully, they didn't change the illustrations because those are the best part of the book. Yes, they're terrifying, but they're also beautifully well done and unforgettable. While there are 3 of these books, I'm only including the first one because that's the only one I had growing up. I have since read the other 2, and they're all great. But the one that I remember the most giving me nightmares was the first one. These are a few of the images that scared me the most of this book. I also really loved that they made a movie on this in 2019, but I do find it pretty funny that it was rated PG-13, seeing as the original book in 1981 was marketed specifically towards children. So between that and sugarcoating In a Dark, Dark Room with their new cutesy illustrations, I feel like we're not scaring kids with books as much as we were back in the day. Which, sure, I guess it's good that we're not traumatizing kids anymore. But it's healthy to have fears, it's healthy to be scared and learn how to process those emotions. And I know for myself, being exposed to this kind of stuff as a kid made me be a horror-loving adult. Between books and movies, horror is my favorite genre by far. And I don't think that I would be as into it as I am without being exposed to it growing up like this. So even though I poke fun, ultimately, I can't complain too much because I still love this stuff. Okay, that's it for books. So whether or not you agree with me on any of those or you just think I'm a wimp, let me know down below. Next, we're going to move on to games. And there's not as many of those. I did play some games growing up, but not nearly as much as I do now, so it's kind of a small pool to pick from. But there were a few that had parts that definitely scared me. And most of them are going to be from GameCube or PC. I did not have a PlayStation or anything like that. I didn't even get a Wii until middle school. So a lot of the things I'm going to be talking about are objectively not that scary, but we'll get into it. You'll see what I mean.
Hello?
Starting off strong with Luigi's Mansion. I loved it. I loved the music. I loved the concept. I thought it was so much fun to explore this house. But I did also have a little fear of ghosts and dark hallways and things that pop up when you least expect it. So even though I loved the game, it had its share of jump scares for me. That didn't stop me from playing it, but I definitely only wanted to play it when I wasn't home alone. Even today, this is one of my all-time favorite GameCube games. I love Luigi more than Mario. Sorry, Mario. I just think Luigi's more eccentric and fun. Mario has his moments, but most of the time he's gotta be the hero, he's gotta be calm and reserved. I'm here for the anxious mess, I relate to him more. Next, I'm gonna talk a little bit about Zoo Tycoon. I played this constantly. I would play till I unlocked everything and then start a new one. The part that scared me was the witch. Once you got to kind of October, November, when playing through the game, there would be a witch that comes across the screen, and she cackles this loud witch laugh that would always catch me off guard. I never expected it. When I was into the game, I wasn't paying attention to what time of year it was. And if you're playing on Savannah or somewhere like that, the weather doesn't noticeably change either. So it would just come out of nowhere while I was immersed in the game, this terrifying witch cackle and this witch on a broom flying across the screen. I don't know why it scared me so much, but it would make me jump, and sometimes it would even be enough for me to quit the game for the night. I have searched all over YouTube for a clip that includes the cackling, and I can't find it. A lot of the playthroughs that I was watching were the complete collection of Zoo Tycoon, which I didn't have. I just had the original, very first version, bare bones from 2001. So I have a theory that after the original game, they took out the cackling on subsequent releases, because I can't find it anywhere. And I know I'm not imagining it because I vividly remember it, and I found this. Fly over your zoo while cackling. So I'm sorry, I tried to find an example. Unfortunately, you're just gonna have to imagine it. Let's move on. The next one we're gonna be talking about is The Sims 1 specifically for GameCube. Now, I'm an only child, so I would be home alone a lot growing up. We lived out in the country, so there were no streetlights, there wasn't a whole lot of noise, we were in the middle of a bunch of farmland. So I would be home alone, in the living room by myself, playing this game, and I would be so immersed in it that I didn't realize how dark it was getting outside. So my Sims would be asleep, they would be snoring. That noise alone is a little unsettling. And then suddenly, out of nowhere, I would jump out of my seat. I would pause the game, jump up, and turn on as many lights as I could. It was loud, it was unexpected, and it's just a scary sound that meant something bad was about to happen. I was also afraid of the Grim Reaper in this game. My Sims didn't die very often, but when they did, the music and the atmosphere that would happen when the Grim Reaper showed up just made me very uncomfortable. While replaying the game and getting footage for this video, one of my Sims got electrocuted and when the Grim Reaper showed up, I decided to plea with him. And I'm sure this is common, but personally it's never happened to me in all of the 23 years I've been playing this game, but Grim allowed my Sim to come back as a zombie. So that was kind of fun to get on camera because it's never happened to me before. So that is it. I know my choices for games that scared me are pretty wimpy, but I played mostly family-oriented Nintendo console games, and most of those are family-friendly and not very scary. There are games that I've played as an adult that I know would have scared me when I was a kid, but since I didn't play them then, I'm not including them here. If you did want to watch my part 1 and haven't yet, I will link it in the description below. Also, shameless plug, I do have a second channel called Maci Coyote Plays, where I'm going to be doing more gaming content. I did get a capture card for this video, so I'm now able to play old console games, so I may be doing some of those on the other channel. So if you're interested, you can go and follow that one too. I'll link that below as well. Again, I know they're kind of pathetic, so feel free to make fun of me in the comments. But while you're down there, also let me know if any of these scared you growing up. And if there's any other content you're wanting to see from me or have any ideas or suggestions of videos I could do, let me know. Like and subscribe if you don't want to miss future videos. And thank you so much for watching. I'll see you guys next time.